कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानन्दन ब्रज जनरञ्जन। यशोदानन्दन ब्रज जनरञ्जन। যমুনা তীর বনচারী। যমুনা তীর বনচারী। জয় রাধা মাধব কুঞ্জ বিহারি। गोपी जन वल्लभ जय राधा माधव कुंज हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Giri
This fan is very, close, very close. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We welcome all the devotees in today's session. Today is very auspicious day. Yesterday we celebrated Gaur Purnima festival. And today we are going to celebrate Jagannath Mishra Mahotsav. And we are very fortunate to have with us His Holiness Bhakti Caitanya Swami Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Just a brief introduction about Maharaj I would like to give. Maharaj appeared in 1951 in New Zealand at Auckland, and while Maharaj was pursuing his studies at Auckland University, he came in contact with the devotees. He saw that devotees are offering flowers at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, and later on in 1972, Maharaj left New Zealand to took a world tour, and he came to London and he met with Srila Prabhupada. Later on, he took initiation from Srila Prabhupada and became involved in public relations and book publishing at Bhakti Vedanta Manor, which is the headquarters of ISKCON at British. Later on in 1980, Maharaj came to South Africa to oversee the temple projects here at Radha Radhanath Temple. And in 1994, at the Gaur Purnima occasion, now we are celebrating Gaur Purnima only, Maharaj took to the renounced order of life. And Maharaj is also teaching many courses at Vrindavan Institute of Higher Education, Vrindavan, and traveling all over the world and preaching Krishna consciousness. Especially Maharaj is preaching in Russia, India, America, South Africa. We are very fortunate to have Maharaj Association. Maharaj is very close to Guru Maharaj, and they have preached together for so many years in South Africa. And recently, during midterm GBC meeting in 2017, Maharaj came to Ujjain to give us his wonderful association. And whenever we request at the lotus feet of Maharaj, he is always very kind to give us association. So we are very grateful to Maharaj and welcome him by one time chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. His Holiness Bhakti Caitanya Swami Maharaj ki. Srila
Prabhupada ki. Shri Bhakti Churu Swami Maharaj ki.
Jai.
Shri Gaur Purnima Mahotsava ki.
Jai.
Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki.
Jai.
Well, I'm very happy indeed to be here with all of you, nice devotees, and having this opportunity to celebrate this festival with you. For me, right now, it's very early in the morning. It's 4:30.
Wow. Sorry, Maharaj, for disturbing you.
That's okay. It's nice. Yes. So today, of course, we're celebrating the Jagannath Mishra's festival. Immediately, like the next day after Lord Chaitanya appeared, let me begin by offering a few prayers. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presta Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachadeshatarne Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Vanchkalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So yes, of course, we all know very well how the Lord Chaitanya appeared in the evening. It was the early evening. It was moonrise time. So it means maybe 6 or 7, maybe 7, something like that. It was that just very early evening time, and there was a lunar eclipse. There was lunar eclipse. The moon was attacked by Rahu, and as a result, everything became dark. And it was the practice that when there's an eclipse, then everybody goes down to the local river or kund, something like that, and everyone takes bath, and everyone continues to bathe right through the eclipse, because eclipses are inauspicious. I'm sure you're aware of that in India. To some degree, these things are still followed. I remember how, many years ago, I forget exactly when, but many years ago, I was in Vrindavan, and there was an eclipse in Vrindavan during the time of Guru Puja, and then the Kirtan following Guru Puja, and then through the Srimad Bhagavatam class. And I remember walking back after the Bhagavatam class, feeling, and it was like a half light. It wasn't like nighttime, but it wasn't like normal for, say, 8:30 or so in the morning at all. It was somewhat dark. And you could feel the inauspiciousness in the air. It was very tangible. So the Lord appeared under those circumstances, and everyone was in the Ganges. And not only just in the Ganges, but everyone was chanting. Everyone was chanting the holy names. It was like an uproar of the chanting of the holy names. And of course, this was the arrangement of Lord Chaitanya, because that was his mission. His mission, of course, was to establish the chanting of the holy names. And there's a type of understanding of why the moon was hidden, is that the moon, of course, is silver. And I suppose you saw last night in India, whenever I've been there for Gaur Purnima, the moon rises maybe 7 and then comes up and over. It's really beautiful. So, but now in this case, the moon is silver, but Lord Chaitanya, he's known as Gaurachandra, the golden moon. So the silver moon was feeling embarrassed that what is my value in the presence of Gaurachandra, the golden moon? And therefore, the idea is the moon hid his face. The moon hid his face to avoid embarrassment. So anyway, this was all happening in the evening. And the next day, Jagannath Mishra had a celebration for the appearance of his child. And this is the festival that we're observing today, Jagannath Mishra's festival, in celebration of the appearance of his child. And in Caitanya Charitamrita, there's not much of a description of what happened. But in Chaitanya Bhagavat and a little bit in Chaitanya Mangala, there's more of a description of what happened the next day, the following day. So that, they hardly had to arrange a festival because everybody knew. And therefore people, the following day, when Jagannath Mishra was getting the celebration together, then people were just coming and coming, and the situation was more or less out of control. It was practically out of control. And everyone was just fascinated to see this incredibly beautiful child, just amazingly attractive child. There's a description of the appearance of Lord Caitanya, how he looked. There's a description in Chaitanya Mangala, which is nice. Let me just have a look here. And let's just read a few verses which describe the beautiful appearance. I mean, how he looked that following day. So, his every limb manifested an abundance of rasa. Gauranga's body was a condensed form of luscious nectar. Seeing this form soothed the eyes of everyone. It appeared to everyone that he was the paramour lover of the gopis. And this is just when he's appeared from the womb of Mother Sachi. It's a matter, it's not even 24 hours yet. The ladies said, "We have never seen or heard of such a boy, whose sight immediately makes our hearts palpitate with desire. We feel an irresistible attraction to Gaura Prabhu. Not a day will pass when we will not want to see him." Gaura's face shone with the soothing glow of hundreds of moons. His smile resembled a blossoming lotus flower. His elegant, highly raised nose defeated the beauty of a sesame flower. The rays of Gaurachandra's dazzling body appeared nectarian. Affection rises in the heart upon seeing his red lips. His finely shaped chin and shining cheeks. His neck resembled that of a lion, and his shoulders were as powerful as an elephant's. He had a broad chest and his long arms hung to his knees. His entire body was saturated with bliss. So his feet, his soles, well, his hips were wide and attractively curved. His powerful thighs tapered like the trunk of a banana tree. His feet resembled a red lotus flower. The soles of his feet were marked with a flag, goad, chamara, chariot, lightning bolt, umbrella, swastika, jumbo fruit, and a triangle surrounded by water pots. The combined effect of all this beauty was like a river flowing with nectar. So what a scene! What a scene. The demigods gathered, and the next day, we're talking here about the next day when Jagannath Mishra had the festival, but the demigods were just coming and going and coming and going, mixing with all the local men and the local ladies who were also just coming and going and coming and going and glorifying. So the scene was amazing. The scene was completely amazing. And Lord Brahma came. He was reciting prayers. Indra, Chandra, the Kinnaras, Gandharvas, they all came just to feast their eyes, on the beauty, the indescribable beauty of Lord Gauranga. And upon seeing the Lord, everyone's eyes became anointed with nectar, just as if they were seeing their dearmost beloved. Millions of cupids gathered, but then they fled in shame upon beholding the beauty of his lotus face. Sure. It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing. So anyway, the next day, this is all in the evening and then into the next day. So the next day, there was a big gathering. There was a big gathering. So let's see what happened. So who came was, very important person who came was Nilamba Chakravarti. Nilamba Chakravarti, of course, is the father of Mother Sachi and is therefore the grandfather of Gauranga. And Nilamba Chakravarti, you know, he's Brahmin, and not just Brahmin in name, but he was highly qualified Brahmin, expert in the Brahminical skills. And among other things, he was expert in astrology and astronomy. He was expert in physiognomy, means to understand the different symptoms which are displayed in the body of a person, which indicate their deeper nature, personal nature. He was expert at reading palms and all these types of things, which they're all great Brahminical skills. So Nilamba Chakravarti he immediately, the following day, he immediately did astrological readings to understand the nature of the child and what the future of the child would be. So, he started getting into it, and he, what's going on? Where's the image? Well, 1 minute, we started slightly late. No. 1 minute. No, you see, because we started late and we've got a problem.
Okay, then we don't need to stream it on.
The virtual camera's working, but it's not picking it up. Anyway, it's in Zoom. So. Excuse us for the interruption. It was not set up properly. So, okay, Nilambar Chakravarti. Nilambar Chakravarti is doing a reading, and the more he got into the different, whatever he saw when he was doing his reading, the more he understood that this child, this is not an ordinary child at all. This is very, very special, even unique child. And he said that there was a prediction. There was a prediction that a Krishna. Sorry. It's just, it got started late. So some interference. Yes, so there was a prediction that a king, someday a king will be born in Bengal as a Brahmin's son. And it seems to me that this child may be that king, a very, very special person. Nilambar Chakravarti found all sorts of very esoteric, very extraordinary, and very wonderful signs in all the different houses of the astrological chart of Gaurachandra. He became astounded. He saw not just kingly signs, but he saw divine signs in the Lord's chart. So then, in the presence of everyone, Nilambar Chakravarti began explaining all the sort of ramifications and indications that were there in the Lord's chart. And the deeper he went into the chart, the more he found, the more difficulty he was having expressing it all. So Caitanya Bhagavat says that Nilambar Chakravarti said that actually the qualities of this child displayed in his horoscope are beyond those of a king. They're way beyond those of a king. Actually, they are beyond description. They're beyond description. And so then he started making different predictions. What this child, Lord Gaurachandra, what this child will do and what he will be like. So he said, this child will conquer the learning of Brihaspati, the guru, the priest of the demigods. He'll be the greatest scholar. He'll be a natural repository, reservoir of all divine qualities. And as he was describing like that, according to Caitanya Bhagavat, one great saintly person who was present there in disguise. Nobody knew who he was, but he was disguised as a Brahmin, some sort of mendicant like that. Then that Brahmin stood up and started making pronouncements about who is this child and what is his future going to be. Very amazing. So that Brahmin said, actually, this child is not just a king. This child is the Supreme Lord Narayan himself in person. This child is going to reestablish all the principles of religion. Because at that time, as I'm sure you're aware, in Navadvip particularly, even though Navadvip was a great religious center and a great center of learning, but it had become very degraded, particularly so many of the people there were worshipping Durga in degraded ways. Now, you all know there in Ujjain, you're all from Hindu backgrounds, so you know what the worship of Durga is like when, particularly in Bengal, and when they really get into it. It's there's a Durga Chandi. There's a lot of liquor. There's a lot of meat, and they offer animals to Kali Ma, and it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. So in that sense, religious principles have become degraded. Even in that very famous religious center of Navadvip. So this Brahmin saint, this saint disguised as a Brahmin, told everyone he will reestablish the real principles of religion. He will initiate a wonderful preaching movement and deliver the whole world. He'll bestow upon everyone that gift which is eternally desired by Lord Brahma, by Lord Shiva, and by Shukadev Goswami. This child, upon seeing him, just by seeing him, people will feel compassion for all living entities. And they'll become just indifferent, callous to all ideas of material enjoyment and the so-called pleasures of material life. And the pains of material life, they'll just become totally unaffected by these things. And when this happens, that saintly person said, when this happens, this will be the greatest benediction for the whole world. And, just to diverge a little, that's what this movement is doing. That's what this movement has done. When Srila Prabhupada first came, then I first saw Prabhupada in 1972, but he'd already been preaching in America and then later in Europe. And Prabhupada had been preaching to initially the young Americans. And all of them were living in really quite opulent situations compared to just your average person. They were not just sort of middle class or working class, but they were all, you could say, like business class people. And you've even got people like Ambarish Prabhu. I'm sure you all know Ambarish Prabhu, who's in charge of the building of the TOVP, the Temple of Vedic Planetarium in Sri Mayapur Dham. Ambarish Prabhu is from an extremely wealthy family. The family at least, they're a billionaire family for sure. But he was brought up in that sort of environment. But by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, he had contact with Lord Caitanya and Lord Chaitanya's movement. And even though from such a wealthy background, he just felt, and he feels to this day, who cares about all that wealth? Who cares about that? Who's interested? And therefore, he's donated millions and tens of millions of dollars to the construction of the TOVP. So like that sadhu said that the influence of this child, when he grows up and he becomes a preacher, his influence will be such that the people will become callous to the joys and the pains of material existence. In other words, they'll become transcendentally situated. And this will be the greatest benediction for the whole world. This will be the greatest benediction. Because otherwise, you see, as soon as a poor person gets money, then they think life has become a festival. Life is good. Anyway, so then the man, that saintly person, continued that what to speak of ordinary people, even hardcore atheists will worship the lotus feet of this child. He'll be glorified throughout the entire creation, and people from all the Varanas, people from all the ashrams will come to worship this child as he grows up and really becomes deeply involved in preaching. He is the personification of pure Bhagavat religion, Sanatan Dharma. A lot of people from Hindu backgrounds, when they hear about Sanatan Dharma, they think that it's demigod worship and worship of different deities, including Lord Vishnu and Lord Krishna to some degree, but more like a general form of demigod worship, as is found in Hinduism. But of course, and this devotee here, he knows and he says that he is the personification of the eternal occupation of all souls in relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. He will be the benefactor of the Brahmins, the cows, and the devotees, and the affectionate and devoted son of his parents. Of course, that was very true, very true. So he carried on. This child has come to accomplish great things. Just like the Supreme Lord Narayan incarnating to reestablish religious principles. So then he said, who can explain the import of this child's amazing astrological and esoteric symptoms? So how fortunate are you, Jagannath Mishra? You're so incredibly fortunate. I offer my obeisances unto you, the illustrious father of this amazing child. And so then that person said that I have actually done a calculation of his astrological chart. His name should be Vishvamba. And he can also be called Navadvip Chandra. He is spiritual bliss personified. So then, this devotee is talking about how wonderful Lord Gauranga is going to be. But of course, there's one thing he doesn't mention. You know what that is? Devotees, Ujjain say. You know what that is? He didn't mention anything about Lord Gauranga taking sannyas because he didn't want to create some anxiety in the minds of his parents or the other devotees who were there. So when Jagannath Mishra heard this, he was just totally, completely overwhelmed, going from one level of astonishment to the next. And Jagannath Mishra, as part of his festival, because this is all now his festival on the next day, normally the name giving is done some days later, but this unusual special devotee, he's already given the name Vishvamba. He's mentioned Navadvip Chandra, but it is actually the next day after the appearance in the evening. So Jagannath Mishra immediately wanted to offer gifts to everybody who was there. That, of course, is the practice in such occasions, that the parents, they give gifts. Just like I can remember, for all you devotees there in Ujjain, as was stated earlier, I had really a lot of association with His Holiness Bhakti Swami Maharaj. And what a dear, dear friend. Dear, what an amazing and wonderful relationship we had. And I remember one thing he told us in South Africa. It was someone's birthday, one of the devotees living in the temple. It was their birthday. And Bhakti Maharaj told us all, and the devotee whose birthday it was there. Maharaj said, it's your birthday, you must give gifts. You must give everyone gifts. Don't sit there expecting everyone to come and give you gifts, as is the practice, of course, in Western so-called culture. I don't know what you'd really call it. It's not really culture, but whatever you'd call Western culture. So anyway, Jagannath Mishra in ecstasy, just wanting to give and give and give in order to express his happiness, he fell at the lotus feet of that unknown Vaishnav mendicant who had just appeared out of nowhere. He fell at his lotus feet and cried and cried. And that Brahmin fell at the lotus feet of Jagannath Mishra and caught hold of Jagannath Mishra's feet. So they're both on the ground, holding each other's feet to their heads. And it's an amazing atmosphere. And everyone was just chanting, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, in ecstasy. So the relatives and friends were there, all coming and going and coming and going. It's just like, it's a kind of a whirlwind situation. So many people coming and going. And so all the relatives and friends, they glorified the beauty of Lord Gauranga and blessed him in terms of those supernatural predictions that they had heard. And then the festival continued. And now the musicians arrived. The musicians arrived. And they had their mridangas, their flutes, their shanais, and their different other instruments. And the whole atmosphere was filled with this joyous, beautiful music just resounding everywhere. And then, you know who came then? Now, the wives of the demigods, the wives of the demigods began to arrive. And of course, they disguised themselves as ordinary ladies. But still, people could see that we don't know these ladies. We know everyone around here, but we don't know them. And they look so opulent and beautiful and just radiant with divine Shakti. Maybe everyone was thinking, maybe they're demigodesses, which they were. So then amongst them, Aditi, the mother of the demigods, she stepped forward in front of everyone. And she was holding in her right hand kusha grass, and raw rice, uncooked rice. And then she placed her hand on Nimai's head and then blessed him. You live a long time. You live a long time. And she said, please remain eternally in this material world and always manifest your pastimes. So like this, she was explaining the meaning of the idea of you live a long time. You stay here always. So Chaitanya Bhagavat says that Sachi Devi, Mother Sachi, the mother So then those demigodesses took the dust from Mother Sachi's lotus feet, and Mother Sachi was just so overwhelmed in ecstasy, she couldn't say anything. She was just sitting there. So Chaitanya Bhagavat says, neither the Vedas nor Lord Anantashesh could describe the waves of jubilation that drowned the house of Sri Jagannath Mishra. So it was like the whole population of Navadvip was there. And actually it was like not just the whole population of Navadvip was there. It was like the whole population of the district of Nadia was there. Because Navadvip is just one part of the Nadia district. There were just so many people. And the mood was just one of just being so overwhelmed that, everyone was just, it was kind of completely out of control. And those who didn't know about the birth of Lord Gauranga, they were thinking, maybe it's the celebration of some special lunar eclipse. So Chaitanya Bhagavat gives a very nice summary here. It's really nice. Please listen to this. It also talks about the appearance of Lord Nityananda, just very briefly. But please listen. Lord Chaitanya appeared on the full moon night of the month of Falguna. This day is the most worshipable by Lord Brahma and all other personalities, great personalities. This day of the Lord's appearance is the holiest of holy occasions. This day is Bhakti personified. Lord Chaitanya appeared on the full moon night of Falguna, and Lord Nityananda appeared on the 13th night of the waxing moon. Both these days are all auspicious and are transcendental occasions. If one follows these holy occasions, one will develop pure Krishna prema. In other words, if we observe nicely Gaur Purnima and Nityananda Trayodasi, if we observe these days very nicely, you develop pure Krishna prema. And you completely cut asunder, completely just cut to pieces, it means, the knots of material illusion. So I'm sure you did yesterday in Ujjain. And then he continues. Listen to this. Similarly, the appearance days of pure Vaishnava devotees, like the appearance days of the Supreme Lord, are also all auspicious and transcendental. And listen to this. Whoever hears the narrations of Lord Chaitanya's birth is freed from all miseries in life and in death. Anyone who hears these pastimes of Lord Chaitanya's appearance immediately gets love of Krishna and becomes his eternal servitor. He comes with the Lord each time the Lord advents in this material world. Yes, so there you go, devotees. Lord Chaitanya's pastimes have no beginning and no end. I write them down only by the mercy of the Lord. I offer my humble obeisances at the Lord's feet and at the feet of all his devotees. I pray that I may be excused from all offenses. Hare Krishna. So, Bhakti Prem Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Apni keman achen?
আমি খুব ভালো আছি
Khub balo.
আর কৃপায়
Ami khub balo. Cholche. Mota moti. Should I stop now or what should I do?
Yes, Maharaj, any question? I have a small question.
Acha. Acha.
You mentioned that nicely celebrating Gaur Purnima and Nityananda Triyodashi. So sometimes it comes in our mind, nicely means chanting more or fasting or doing more kirtan or distributing book or some more service. Which one we should emphasize more?
Acha. Yes. Well, you know, we fast on Gaur Purnima, we fast till moonrise. But that is not, it is not just a matter of self-denial. It is to save time. It is to save time. Because every time you eat a meal, it means it's half an hour. And if you eat 2 or 3 meals in a day, it's a whole hour or even more is just used. So the fasting is there to give us some more time, first of all, for hearing and chanting. We should, on Gaur Purnima, we should chant more japa, and on Gaur Purnima, we should read and hear the reading of the pastimes of Lord Gauranga. I know here in South Africa, in Durban, now I'm in Johannesburg, but I was in Durban, and for the last about 1 month, or something like that, we were doing a seminar on Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, just day after day, evening after evening. And, you know, this is also a very nice way to celebrate, is that not just on the day, but leading up to the day, in the time coming up, that we do special program of hearing and chanting about the particular divine person who's going to appear shortly. So, and then on the day, well, I know in Durban, you know, now of course it's the lockdown and it's all difficult. But generally on these days, we just have a program for the entire day. After the morning program, then we have readings and bhajans about, in this case, Lord Chaitanya. And then through the afternoon, it continues. And, I normally, on these days, I have to give several classes for several hours, but it's nectar. So we should do like that. Increase our chanting of japa and increase our hearing and chanting about the glories of, in this case, Lord Gauranga, but if it's Janmastami, the glories of Krishna, if it's Radhastami, so much Radha Katha, and it's like that. Tikache, TK.
Thank you, Maharaj, for enlightening us.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for your speaking about Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, which are full of nectar. We practically felt that we were transported into the Jagannath Mishra festival, and we were a part of it. There, one question, Maharaj, if you like to take. By Jagat Jivan Prabhu, he is asking, Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for giving your valuable time and guidance. The question is, I am still not clear why Mahaprabhu took initiation in Mayavadi Sampradaya, although other bona fide Sampradaya were also present at that time. Is there any specific reasons or lessons to be learned from this pastime? Your servant, Jagat Jivan Das.
Okay. The thing is that even though the other sampradayas were there to some degree, but they were nowhere near as prominent as the Mayavadi sampradaya or sampradayas. They were nowhere near. And Prabhupada talks about it in Caitanya Charitamrita, actually, that the Vaishnav sampradayas at that time were not actually taken very seriously. And Lord Chaitanya, his reason for accepting sannyas was specifically that he wanted to be taken more seriously, so people would listen to him. And because if he had just remained a householder, he could have remained a householder. He could have easily done that. Krishna did. Krishna went to Mathura, and Krishna became a householder, and he remained a householder. Lord Ram. So Lord Chaitanya could have remained a householder. His second wife, Vishnu Priya, she is such an exalted, transcendental personality. But the problem was the mentality of the people in general, that even though Lord Gauranga, as a householder, was such an exalted person and his wife was so exalted, but people would not have taken him seriously when he presented Krishna consciousness and the Sankirtan Yajna. So he needed that. He felt it was an essential part of his mission was to preach, and to preach in such ways that people would listen, that, oh yes, right, now, the Swami, the sannyasi, has spoken, and yes, we must do it. We must follow and do what he says. So that was his motivation in accepting Mayavad sannyas, as opposed to, some from the Vishnu Swami line, they were there, and other lines were there at least to some degree. So, and then, of course, if you're familiar with the story, what happened was that when Keshav Bharati gave Lord Chaitanya sannyas, it was not just like some typical Mayavad sannyas ceremony. There's a whole, we could have a whole program simply about Lord Chaitanya taking sannyas. I mean, it's a big pastime. But the thing is, when finally Keshav Bharati gave him the sannyas mantra, then, which is the essence of the initiation. We have our initiations, first and second, and sannyas, but mainly first and second initiations. And, traditionally, they, not just traditionally, but in fact, they revolve around the reception of mantra, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in first initiation and Gayatri mantras in second initiation. That the giving of the mantra or mantras is the central part of whatever the initiation ceremony is. So similarly in sannyas, everything builds up to the person, the devotee is given the mantra, the sannyas mantra. So Keshav Bharati was going to give Lord Chaitanya the Mayavad sannyas mantra. So he came over somewhere not so far from Lord Chaitanya's right ear, not right in his ear, but on the right side, and repeated a Mayavadi sannyas mantra. And Lord Gauranga said to Keshav Bharati, after Keshav Bharati has spoken the mantra, Lord Gauranga said, I didn't hear it properly. Can you do it again, a little closer? So Keshav Bharati came a little closer and repeated the mantra. And Lord Gauranga said, I didn't catch it also this time. Can you come a little closer and do it again? So for a third time, Keshav Bharati repeated this Mayavad mantra. And Lord Gauranga said, I think I got it this time. I think I got it. Let me just repeat it to you, and you can tell me if I've got it right. So he came over to the right ear of Keshav Bharati, sort of right into his ear, and repeated a Vaishnav sannyas mantra. A Vaishnav sannyas mantra. And he said to Keshav Bharati, is that it? Did I get it right? And Keshav Bharati, hearing that Vaishnav sannyas mantra, he became overwhelmed in ecstasy and said, you got it. You got it right. That's the mantra. But it was not the mantra that Keshav Bharati had been trying to give Lord Gauranga. It was a Vaishnav sannyas mantra, which Lord Chaitanya gave him. So, in other words, we understand on a deeper level that Lord Chaitanya did not exactly take Mayavad sannyas. It was just he adopted the clothing and he shaved his head and he took a danda. But actually, that in that ceremony, Lord Gauranga did not exactly take sannyas, but he gave Keshav Bharati sannyas, Vaishnav sannyas. So it's different from this idea that, yes, Lord Gauranga, he just took Mayavad sannyas and he became a Mayavadi sannyasi, apparently. It's not really true. It's not really true. He didn't exactly take Mayavad sannyas, although he accepted the external trappings. But they were also the external trappings, pretty much, of Vaishnav sannyas. And in fact, he gave Vaishnav sannyas to Keshav Bharati. That's, a more sort of internal understanding of what happened there in Katwa. If you've been to that place, very nice place, where the sannyas ceremony happened.
Thank you, Maharaj. And we are very grateful to you, Maharaj, that Maharaj is in the GVC Executive Committee, the topmost committee of ISKCON, and currently serving as chairman of that committee. Still, Your Holiness took time out for us, and that too at a very early morning, as Your Holiness mentioned. It is 4:30 a.m. in South Africa. So we are very grateful to you, Maharaj, and we beg for your blessings so that we can nicely serve in this glorious Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Also, we Ujjain devotees have a humble request at your lotus feet that please visit ISKCON Ujjain to bless us with your association. Whenever the corona situation improves, we very much need your guidance and love. So let us express our gratitude to Maharaj by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. His Holiness Bhakti Caitanya Swami Maharaj ki
Jai.
Jagannath Mishra Mahamosava ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Okay, thank you. Bahut dhanyavad. Hare Krishna. Bad Malenge. Bad Malenge.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
See you later.
Hare.